All right, welcome to Season 4, Episode 19, also known as Episode 130 of the Retro Game Club podcast. I am Hugh, and joining me is someone who just released a farm simulator on the Switch, Rob.
Yeah, it seemed like a little niche market that no one was capitalizing on.
Nobody at all.
Yeah, a lot of people are ripping on Nintendo now, I guess. But, I mean, people like farm sims, I guess.
Well, I think Nintendo's only making one of the farm sims that was announced this week. So we're of course, referring to the Nintendo Direct, which I assume everybody listening blew off an hour of work this week to watch.
Yeah.
I believe I had a notepad here, and I believe I counted 412 farming simulators announced. But I didn't start counting till they'd already gone through 20 or so.
Yeah, farming's the new fishing. So East 10 is going to have farming, right?
It has to. It's going to be a big farm simulator.
What was I going to ask? Did you download that Harvestella demo? It looked kind of cool.
No, I did not. That's a farm simulator though?
Yeah, I mean, there's farming in it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It looked cool. My buddy said like it's a slow start. Like in the first hour, you have like 5 minutes of gameplay.
Oh.
So they really start you off slow there.
So Nintendo Direct, we can talk about that. I know it's not like retro, but what did you take away from it?
Well, obviously, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, I think it looks cool. I think, the tears will be those vials that he has that give him special powers, I guess. And I hope there's a lot of real dungeon crawling in it. Like, yeah, obviously there is a Skyward Sword floating island type world, but I'm hoping that, you see Zelda fall into the darkness. So I hope there's some real dungeon crawling, unlike Breath of the Wild. What do you think?
Yeah, I having just played Skyward Sword, I hope it borrows as little from Skyward Sword as it can. So I think the idea that you're traveling through the air is interesting, assuming they still keep it kind of open and not locked down. The nice thing about Breath of the Wild is that 2 hours into the game or 30 minutes into the game, depending how you play it, the entire map is open from the beginning. Like you can literally reach every spot on the map from the beginning of the game. And you can take quests in any order you feel like, with a few minor restrictions here and there. And I just hope they keep that theme and don't revert back to, okay, Link, now go to this specific area that's locked down and you can't really, explore at all.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they keep it more like Breath of the Wild and less like the direction the series was trending before then.
I hope and fear that they will use this to tie a bunch of the games together. Like, I think if they use Tears of the Kingdom to tie Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword, and maybe one or two other games together, that would be cool. But if they try to use this to justify their chronology, I think that could not have a very good taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what was there anything else in the Direct that you were into?
Yes, there was. What did I put here? I'm sorry, I have two tabs open. There we go. There was the not Danganronpa game that otherwise looks exactly like that series.
Was that the music game?
No, it was Rain Cell, something like that. Wait, that wasn't it. It's the detective game. It was the detective game with the very tropey anime characters.
Yeah.
And Octopath Traveler 2 I kind of put on my maybe list. I overall like the first game, but I kind of didn't like the battle system that much, and I don't really know if I want another game in the same style. I saw today that I didn't see the videos yet, but there was Square Enix released 20 minutes of gameplay footage today, which I did not watch yet. So I'm going to watch that and see what they changed. After playing, I just finished Live Alive, I guess is the right way to pronounce it. That's a really cool battle system. And I enjoyed it a lot. The Trails series has a really good battle system. I just kind of, Octopath Traveler felt a little weak in that department. It's really good in the story department, really good in music, all that stuff. It was overall a really good RPG. I just didn't care for the battle system a ton.
Yeah, it was turn-based, right?
Yeah. I mean, everything I'm describing is turn-based, but there's different types of turn-based.
Yeah.
And like Octopath Traveler is really kind of like a trial and error game because like enemies can only be damaged by certain types of attacks, either like a certain element or a certain weapon type. Which is also like Trails kinds of works that way too, but you know, it's not as restricted. Like in Octopath Traveler, if you don't attack someone with a thing they're weak to, you basically do no damage.
Okay.
Whereas like in Trails, if you attack them with something they're weak to, Trails is the same developers that do Ys. So like, you know, Ys, if you have a enemy that's only damaged by like the smash type and you hit them with the sword, they still take damage, right? You just have to hit them 3 times instead of once.
Yeah.
In Octopath Traveler, you basically do 0 damage.
Huh. Okay.
So it's a little frustrating because you spend a lot of time just trial and error each new enemy that you encounter to figure out how you can actually damage them. And then if you don't have like the right type of people in your party, you might get stuck in some battles. And then like every boss fight uses the mechanic where it's like, aha, I'm going to change what I'm immune to, what I'm immune to or damaged by. And it's just, yeah, I'm talking myself out of pre-ordering that game now. It's good.
Nice.
That's good. What else you got going on?
Let's see. I got really far into Arcade Paradise. I bounced off it for now because it really is one of those games where it's like, you're not really, there's no muscle memory to it. You know what I mean? So you could like kind of go in for 5 minutes at a time or whatever. But, you know, the laundry stuff does last a little bit too long if you let it, because you get extra money that way, and getting extra money kind of gets, well, obviously other things a bit faster. But I do consider the laundry part is grinding, kind of like if you get to a boss in East and you get walked over and you have to grind to get up a level or 2. That's kind of like what the laundry is in this. And if they ever make a sequel, I hope they make it a barcade instead of laundry.
Yeah, they'll probably make it like a, well, I hate to go back to probably a farm or maybe power washing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because you now that you're complaining about the game, because of your review last week, I saw that they were selling physical copies of it at Limited Run Games. So I'm like, what the heck? I'll just order it.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm complaining. I think it's still, and definitely my top games of the year, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, I will probably not play it till next winter.
Yeah. The more arcade cabinets you get, the better it is, because those games are fun.
Yeah, that's what I assume. I assume it gets better as you add more games and have less laundry. Maybe you can just like hire a guy to clean the toilets or whatever. I don't know.
You can literally just stop doing the laundry and you are not penalized. You just make a little less money. But yeah, I've been playing a ton of Splatoon 3. You know, I was really good at Splatoon 2, so that helped with Splatoon 3. I was also able to bring over 3 of my weapons. And that's just a game that I am naturally good at for some reason. I don't know why. And like I'm always at the top of the rank, and it's just they tried to balance it out a little bit better, which I think they did some good and some harm, where before the way you were matched up was totally random, and this time they try to even it out a bit, but it does not work out. And if you get matched with some really bad people, you know, and you just lose bad, it's a horrible feeling. And then you see the stats at the end and you'll see how good you did, but your team was horrible. It's not a good feeling, but when you walk over another team, it is a very, very gratifying feeling. So, yeah, you never played the Splatoon series much, have you?
Just a little bit. My youngest kid is really into them, and she's been playing it a ton. I haven't really... I've never really played too. I played a couple minutes, and it's just not really my thing.
I mean, I think it really... I totally get that. Trust me. And other than I just enjoy playing it, I'm not a gun person. Not even so much in video games, even though I play a lot of games with guns. And I play with a paintbrush in this. So it's like a arena shooter that I'm not shooting in. You know what I mean? So I kind of like that. But yeah, I think they did a lot of great stuff with this. I haven't played the single player mode at all yet. Just trying to level up my character for some reason. And do I have anything else written here? let's see. Yeah, I missed Midwest Gaming, or what is it? The Midwest Vintage Computer Fest. My wife got us Dinosaur Jr. tickets, so I got to go see them, and that's always fun. So I did not make it to Chicago, and before I forget, while I still have the stage here, just want to mention that next episode we're going to be talking about collecting retro video games in Australia. So if anyone wants to join in on that conversation and email us or anything like that, please do. We'll give away the email address and stuff like that if you already don't have it memorized later in the episode. But more on that later. What have you been up to other than the stuff you talked about?
Well, I also did not go to the Vintage Computer Fest. So Saturday, I had to drive my kid around a bunch. It was just kind of a busy day. Mm-hmm. And then Sunday, I don't know if you heard, but we had like biblical rainfall in Chicago. If you watch football, you of course knew about this because I assume ESPN or whoever showed all the highlights from the Bears game where like the turf was like literally floating on water because it was so much. I can't, like, there was no damage. I lost like a tree branch, which was kind of nothing. And it probably was not as bad as the news made it out to be, but it was not the kind of weather you wanted to drive in, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And if any part of this festival was outside, like it's done. Mm-hmm. So then it was a weird thing on Saturday while I was driving my kid around. I stopped at a couple garage sales, and I found a really weird one where I've actually never seen this at a garage sale before. So it was like this kind of older couple running the sale, and they had like a table that they described as being their son's junk, right? And I go there, and it's just like a bunch of import video games, like PC Engine, 3DO, Famicom, Saturn, like Japanese imports.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm like, well, that's something I've really never seen at a garage sale before, but I guess, it's bound to happen. Like, I've already imported any import games that I want to have, so I really wasn't. I don't know why I still look at garage sales, really.
Yeah, it's just something to do.
Yeah, I guess maybe. I guess I'm hoping I will find some. I have I could do an episode sometime of like my eBay saved searches, where people try and guess the price of things on my eBay saved searches, and I keep telling them that they're way too low. So I keep hoping maybe I'll run into one or two of those things. Mm-hmm. But I didn't. So anyhow, I'm like, well, I don't really need any of these games. But they had a Family Boy. Are you familiar with the Family Boy?
Yes, I am actually. Yeah. Okay.
So the Family Boy is a Famicom clone. And they only wanted $5 for this thing. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like, that's definitely cheaper than eBay. And I don't have a good Famiclone, right? I have a Hyperkin unit that can allegedly play Famicom games, but doesn't do it very well. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, whatever, $5, I'll give it a try. And right at home, it works perfectly. Games look so much better than the much more expensive Hyperkin system I bought.
Yeah.
In general, it's my experience with Hyperkins that their stuff is not awesome.
Yeah, it works enough. That's about it.
Yeah, I think it's for people that don't really care if they're playing something that's looks at all like the game they originally played. Like, the colors are wrong, the sound is wrong. I don't know. But anyhow, the $5 Family Boy that I found at some random garage sale works great.
That's awesome. What games have you popped into it?
So I only have a couple import games. I bought all the East games because whatever. I have the Japanese Pac-Man for some reason. And then a couple others I haven't tried yet, So I'll probably go through. I have maybe a dozen Famicom games, and they're mostly things that I bought because they're series that I really like. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Maybe I can finally get like DuckTales or something that's... What is the one? Is it... Yeah, DuckTales 2. Is that... I think that's also crazy expensive on Famicom, though. I don't think that's any cheaper.
I don't know Famicom prices at all.
Yeah. I mean, stuff that requires a lot of text is going to be cheap. Things that are like rare in the U.S. and expensive in the U.S., sometimes you can get cheaper, but lately, if they don't require a lot of Japanese reading, you aren't really finding bargains on those anymore. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, we should get to the real show here.
I guess so. I'll we're starting out with a Bluetooth section here.
Okay, yeah.
This one was out of left field. Both of these first two articles are both from RetroRGB.com. USB to PCE adapters can be pre-ordered now. So this is just what it sounds like. It's an adapter for your PC Engine to USB, so you can play like really any Bluetooth modern joystick with your PC Engine.
Well, you could use, if you bought the PC Engine or TurboGrafx Classic Mini or whatever it's called, you could use that controller then, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty, I find it's a pretty faithful controller.
Yeah, and they say you can also use a keyboard and mouse with it, which I don't know how or why or what you would do with that.
Yeah, unless you've hacked it to be a dev kit or something, and I don't even know if that's possible.
Yeah, but pretty neat there. And then the next USB Bluetooth news is N64 BlueRetro BT. Is a Nintendo 64 Bluetooth adapter that looks kind of neat.
It's half the price of the. So the first one we talked about was $60.
Mm-hmm.
This one is $30.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but whatever.
Yeah, and this one looks pretty capable. You can remap buttons. It has a web interface for some reason.
Yeah, I've never heard this going 8-bit mods. I don't think we ever talked about them before. Despite being called 8-bit mods, they also sell Saturn controllers. And a lot of other Bluetooth... They probably started doing 8-bit mods and expanded to other systems because I gotta spend more time on this site. They have hacks for like everything, it looks like.
Yeah, they have like Game Boy Color backlit screens. Let's see, what else do they have here?
They have a $90 internal Bluetooth adapter for GameCube.
That's the one we talked about last episode.
Oh, okay.
And what else?
And $5.99 SD2 SP2 micro SD adapter.
Not bad.
Connect a micro SD card to the serial port of the GameCube. I don't know what you would do with that.
Yeah, and they have all the optical emulators on here too. So yeah, everyone 8-bit mods if you haven't been there. What arcade mods do they have here?
They have
Universal Fighting Board with headers. Okay. So that's like pretty much JAMA to USB, I guess? Or vice versa?
Yeah, something that looks like it lets you connect sort of like modern game controllers to arcade machines. Is that what I'm understanding here?
I guess, yeah. Cool. Yeah, bunch of weird stuff here. And speaking of weird stuff, one last Retro RGB news item. Fixel's 3DO FZ1 optical drive emulator is reviewed by Bob on Retro RGB. And I don't know how many people would buy this thing, because how many people do 3DO?
Well, how many people do this model of 3DO? This is the launch model of 3DO.
Mm-hmm.
I think the later, more inexpensive ones are much more common.
And I don't know if it works on both or what.
Well, they're completely different form factor. I mean, maybe, but like the original launch model 3DO has the kind of CD driver, like the tray pops out, like you press a button and the thing slides out. There's probably a term for that. And the later inexpensive models have the thing where you press a button and the top opens. It's a flip top, like
yeah.
Sega CD. Well, it's like the difference between the two Sega CD models.
Yeah, and I guess that's why this one specifically calls out FC1, right? That's the model of the 3DO, so yeah.
Yeah, so you obviously save a few bucks making a system that flips instead of whatever.
$250. Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, but there's like no copy protection on 3DO games, so in theory, you could get the whole library, pretty easily, I hear.
Yeah, that wraps up our Retro RGB Bluetooth segment of the show.
Yeah, let's see. In the ROM hacking section here, there is a new NES ROM utility that we're going to link to out on the romhacking.net. It's just sort of a general purpose utility. I've seen a couple other tools like this throughout the years.
Yeah, and this
sort of a tool that does like move. You can move data, you can split ROMs, you can create IPS patches, or just general, not game specific, random utility thing.
This one's Windows only, and yeah, the initial release was September 4th of this year, and they've already released a lot of updates to it. It seems pretty cool. I've never needed one of these, I guess for IPS packaging, for maybe some language stuff, but I've only done that like 2 or 3 times in my life.
This is the ugliest thing we've talked about in a while, the SQUAREBOI.
Yes, it is. So
do you wish your Game Boy was harder to carry around?
Lopsided.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I read this one. This is a if you code your own homebrew, you could put it right onto this. What's it called? The SQUAREBOI. BOI, not a Y. It's an I, and you could plug that right into your Game Boy Advance. So there you go. You gotta what chips in the Game Boy Advance? You gotta learn that ASM and start coding that.
I'm not gonna do that. I told you I am not touching any development or hacking for Nintendo systems.
You know, I mean, other than the takedown thing, I really do think he chose wisely with learning 68K over others, because it really does open up a lot more systems than if you learn something else.
Some of the old Apples,
Jaguar.
Part of it is I was thinking of like Amiga. I'm always kind of tempted to go back and do Amiga development again.
Yeah, make some ports of your own stuff.
Yeah, I had an Amiga years ago that I got rid of, unfortunately. It's just I kind of like regret getting rid of it, because I would like to I feel like I could get into Amiga stuff again, but old computers just take so much space, and when you got like kids and stuff, you can't like have the whole house just overrun with old computers.
Yeah. Oh man, what do we have here? Oh geez, did you put this one up? I don't think I did. Maybe it was Zach.
It was, yes, the one that says, with the note that says Zach added this.
Oh, I don't have that page open. Yes.
Yeah. So this is Quake ported to Apple Watch. This is technically our Doom running on things section, and I think he said this was sent to us on Twitter. And yeah, it's Doom running on the not Doom. It's a Quake running on the Apple Watch.
Yeah, and you use the scroll wheel on the side of the watch to look up and down.
Yeah. I mean, it looked the quality of animation in it actually looks pretty good.
The lighting,
it looks absolutely unplayable, but
the lighting looks great.
Yeah, the lighting looks great. Yeah, they must. I don't know if they're using like the remastered version or something, as opposed to the original.
Yeah, that's nuts. I had no idea this was possible.
And let's see, last thing or two here. I feel like this is another millennials discovering things video. I thought I knew about this. So it's about how it's a video about how if you insert tennis into your NES and then take the cartridge out and put Super Mario in without turning the system off, it unlocks it basically puts you into like a glitched world.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like this is a thing we all experimented with in the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, I probably put my NES carts into like an ID, what would it have been? An ISA port in a computer to see if it would have boot or something. Mm-hmm. Weird stuff like that. But the good thing about this video is he explains why it happens. He goes into the registers and stuff like that. So
okay,
that's kind of neat.
And I'm sorry if I accuse this person of being a millennial, and they're not. Some people may take that as an insult. But it does kind of, break down like why, like you said, like why it works this way. Mm-hmm. But like this general thing of like, I'm just going to swap games without turning the system off, and then something weird happens. Like we know.
Yeah, yeah. It's not framed. What was the last one where they? Oh yeah, continuing in Super Mario Brothers. Like, I think the article was labeled like our whole childhood has been a lie or something. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you just didn't have any big brothers or something.
Well, that and like it's literally in a game guide Nintendo published.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even a secret. Nintendo told you this.
Yeah, so
That's why I guess my daughter keeps trying to get me to do a TikTok channel where I am like, "Hey kids, do you know what this is?" And you hold up something really obvious. Like, yes, we know what a cassette tape is.
Did you put this next one up?
Yeah, I did. Just real quick. It's called We Spoke with the Last Person Standing in the Floppy Disk Business. And it's just an interview with a guy that runs the last, at least that we know of, floppy disk distribution service. Among other things, he also he'll do like data conversions, all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly he is still selling like sealed boxes of floppy disks. I assume mostly to governments.
He said that he has ones that he deems, unsafe to use. Like, he would not recommend you actually put data on it and expect it to work. Yeah. So he sells a lot of those for art projects, he said.
Yeah. Yeah, like the books by the foot service, right? Or books by the yard, whatever it was.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's funny. Wow, a lot of these pictures, he does have a lot of floppies here. Maybe I need a box of new old stock floppies.
No, you don't. I threw a ton out. They take up a lot of space and add no enrichment to your life.
Yeah.
I'm down to one box of floppy disk software. And I every day debate throwing it out.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I just feel like, something will happen, and if I just had one 3.5-inch floppy, it would somehow save a bunch of lives. But, wish I didn't throw that out.
Yeah, you've watched too many movies.
Yes.
Well, yeah, like I still have like a bunch of like old DOS and Windows boot disks, as though somehow there's going to be a situation where I need to boot a computer off a floppy disk.
Yeah. It could be... Do you know the John Tudor, the time traveler guy?
No, I did not.
It was from the
real time traveler.
Real, yeah, in air quotes. He, it's obviously been debunked because the U.S. was supposed to be split into 5 countries in 2005, according to him.
Yeah, he's only off by a little bit.
Yeah, this was only in 2000 he came out, but his point to time traveling back in time was because in the year 32 or 33, they needed, all Unix machines were dead, and he needed an IBM 5150, I want to say. Whichever one, I always get the first AT computer and one of their Unix machines mixed up because they have similar...
Because of the Unix timekeeping bug that has been fixed in every major distribution by now?
Oh, no, there was some reason why it couldn't be emulated anymore, and he needed to bring back a real thing. It was pretty funny, but yeah. So that's why you got to store floppy disks and keep old computers.
Yeah. So do I need a copy of like Windows 3 on 5.25-inch discs still? Do you think that's going to come in handy for me?
Yeah, because NetBIOS won't be emulatable in 2032, so you'll need those disks. But you'll probably have to go back in time to get your Amiga anyway.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I could do we go through my one box of floppy disks episode and determine what I should keep and throw out.
I like that. You should have a TikTok for all this stuff. Not that I don't even have TikTok. I
told my kids she could run it. I don't even want to know the login for it.
Yeah, exactly. Let the other governments track her instead. That's like the most tracking software, I think.
Yeah, that we know of.
I guess we go to our topic, which I think we would need a time machine to go back and buy.
We would. This was, I saw, this is unfortunately my idea, so I can't blame anyone for this. But I said, hey, the Magnavox Odyssey turns 50. We've like seen one in person, right? Unfortunately, like as we looked into it, it seems like we don't really have a lot of experience, and our listeners don't have a lot of experience. But Zach did a bunch of research for us. We at least have some notes just to kind of go over like the abridged history of the system.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is going to be I think we're going to have a pretty positive look on the system, even though like we didn't grow up with it, and it can seem kind of like a crude system. I mean, for its time, it was pretty impressive.
Oh yeah.
And it was as everyone knows, it was designed by Ralph Baer, and he previously had invented the Simon memory game. I'm sure you had one of those that you were infuriated by as a kid.
Oh yeah, and every kid on the block had one.
Yeah, that would be one for my TikTok channel. Even though everybody knows, or I mean, like everybody knows what Simon is, even if you were born in like 2015, you know what Simon is somehow.
Yeah.
So he prototyped the system in 1968. It was just called the Brown Box. And September 1972 was when it was first released, and it was $100. And you can punch it into an inflation calculator. That sounds like a cheap launch price for a system, but of course, $100 in 1972 is probably $500-$600 equivalent today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Came with TV hookups, all that stuff, and the controls are just sort of like there's this sort of ball, although I guess it's square. You have dials that adjust like the play field line and speed of the ball. The controllers themselves are hardwired, and they have knobs and a reset button, and they control like the direction of the ball and like I guess I would call it the English, the tilt on it. So you can do quite a bit with it for being relatively simple. What I didn't realize about it, I've only ever seen them with AC adapters hooked up. And apparently the AC adapter was not part of the original package. It required 6 C batteries, like a boombox.
That's nuts.
Yeah, I did not realize there was no AC adapter originally. So interesting. And then, again, the games were sort of played based on like these plastic overlays, that had like the game. So it was more like an electronic board game in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And you had to keep score yourself and so on. And it included other like accessories, like physical accessories, like dice and poker chips and score sheets, that kind of stuff. So as you played games, you could interact with other objects. Again, it's like it was more almost like a board game template, than a game system in a lot of ways. It's like a basic electronic board game. Again, there's no CPU. It's a discrete logic system. A thing I knew and always found really interesting is that the game cartridges don't have any program on them. Like this was not the first cartridge-based system, even though there were cartridges. The cartridges actually change the wiring of the system. Mm-hmm. They actually are rerouting the logic on it. So it's very different than having like a program written to a cartridge. I guess in theory, if you were Homebrew, you could come up with other ones. So, yeah, the entire graphics are 3 dots in one line. The 2 of the dots are player controlled. The third is the ball, if you will. So you think of it in terms of Pong, like you have 2 dots you control, and another one you're hitting back and forth. And then again, the plastic overlays. And then there was a separate light gun and 4 different shooting games available. So it says here there were 28 games on 11 different cards. 13 came in the pack in 12 North America, 10 other regions, and then you could buy like the cards for the other games. Most of them are really variations of Pong in some way.
Yeah.
And then there are some things like Simon Says that it's kind of unclear how that would work.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, even the football one, I mean, you're mostly doing it on paper and the TV just happens to be next to you,
Yeah. So didn't sell real well, and there was a lot of initial confusion that people thought you needed a Magnavox TV, and the Magnavox was only sold at Magnavox stores. And of course, sales reps at the Magnavox store tried to perhaps extend that myth to try and get people to buy a Magnavox TV. And they were trying to sell them as bundles. Mm-hmm. They estimate 350,000 of them were sold, though. Which, I gotta tell you, for 1972, and this is like the first video game system, 350,000 sounds like a pretty impressive number to me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And it's just so strange that it came with poker chips and dice and a whole bunch of non-video game type stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is all uncharted territory, right?
Yeah.
This is all, let's just see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And then, you led to other consoles. So Fairchild Channel F, which was the first actual cartridge-based system, came out afterwards. And then Atari famously made a number of copycats. Even Nintendo made, Pong and... Well, they didn't make an Odyssey clone, but they certainly made Pong clones.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then eventually the Odyssey 2, which, is more like a game system as you would understand it. I see Odyssey 2 stuff all the time at like half-price books.
Really?
The time I see Odyssey cartridges. I don't know if there's just not a big market for it. Like, I don't know, maybe the hardware didn't survive real well.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime I go to a place that sells used games, I don't know about you, but I always see Odyssey 2 cartridges, and they're never going for a whole lot.
This is the first time I really looked at Odyssey games, and I was surprised at how sometimes they looked better than 2600 games.
Oh, Odyssey 2, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. He was really on par with it. Now, they say the Frogger. I tried to emulate it, and one of the games worked. I forget which game worked for me, but the rest would not play. They would play, but my controllers wouldn't work no matter what. So, and I didn't want to break all my other emulators just to get an Odyssey 2 working.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I look at I know eBay's not like the world's greatest gauge, but like you can get lots of 19 games for like $17.
That's pretty good. How much are the Odyssey 2 systems?
I am trying to find that right now, but this tab is being slow. Odyssey 2. That's what I'm wondering. I wonder if the games are cheap because the consoles didn't survive real well. Yeah, people are asking, yeah, it's hard to say. $100 is about average. About what they probably listed for when they were new.
The only, going back to the Odyssey, the only game that really felt like a real game to me, other than Pong, was Haunted House.
Okay.
And for our listeners, if you haven't seen it, player 2 is a ghost, and it's like a picture of a haunted house you have on your TV, and it's kind of like a little maze of the haunted house that player 1 has to not leave the maze and kind of search for the ghost, which is player 2. And the way it works is player 1 goes into another room, and player 2 puts the ghost where they want it to be, and then picks up player 1's controller and goes over and touches the icon of player 2, which makes player 2 vanish. So the next time they find it or hit it or something, it'll light up again. Really strange, but kind of a cool, unique idea.
Yeah. I think Nintendo Land had a game that wasn't all that different conceptually.
Really?
Yeah. Nintendo Land is not a game I recommend. It was a Wii U exclusive. And if there's a Wii U game that wasn't ported to Switch, that game is maybe not awesome. Because like everything from the Wii U was ported to the Switch.
Yeah.
I've never seen a system like that before. And there is a game where it's kind of the same premise, where like one player hides in a haunted house and the other player tries to find them.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah. Similar. Not exactly. I mean, it's obviously not exactly the same. It's just a similar idea.
Haunted House HD.
Honestly, I think you're right. I think this haunted house game with some modifications could work on a modern system.
Yeah, yeah. But the other ones, like, there's almost no point to the system, if you ask me. Like, I guess the Lycon adds some value, which I think it's amazing that Nintendo made this Lycon, and it looks like a real gun.
Yeah, different time. You know,
Yeah,
we didn't.
yeah.
I remember. I mean, I think I'm a little bit older than you, but I remember when toy guns started getting like the orange tip, and
Yep.
that's when I was like 10 or 11. Because I remember I had a transformer that was like a pistol, and it looked like a real pistol.
Yeah, I think the last one I remember was Han Solo's gun not having the orange tip, and then kind of after that.
Okay. Han Solo's gun doesn't even look like a real gun. That's what's hilarious.
I know.
You know, but here's the way I think this is interesting with the Odyssey. 'Cause obviously, I didn't grow up with it, but like when you were a kid, you probably made up games in your backyard, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we all did. Everybody did. And if I was older, I could imagine the Odyssey being sort of like that for days when you can't go outside. Like, it comes with over 12 games, but the reality is you could make up your own games for the system. And I don't mean like you're coding your own games. I just mean like it's this box where you can make your own rules for what you're playing.
Yeah, you could kind of draw on tracing paper, or you could do a cardboard cutout and put it in front of the TV.
Oh yeah,
Something like that.
Like, yeah, like you could absolutely take tracing paper and make like a maze.
Oh,
Or whatever, something that you had to navigate through, right?
one thing I forgot to mention, which would promote this whole idea, is that this thing came with tape, just in case your TV didn't make enough static to hold up the transparencies.
That's what I was saying. The tracing paper for sure would stick to those old school TVs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that stuff sticks to anything.
Yeah, as far as we don't all have some rare form of cancer from that.
I know.
Yeah, I could really picture that. Yeah, you make your own games on tracing paper, and that would be fun. I mean, as a kid, today I would hate it, but as a kid, that actually would have been something I would have enjoyed.
Yeah, because, summer vacations last so long, and by the end of summer vacation, you're just trying to find something new to do. Everyone's so bored, getting really creative. But
now, what I mentioned is the other sort of odd things. I own a Magnavox Odyssey 300, the bright yellow one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I paid $15 for it at a yard sale. It was quite a while ago I got this, and I just kind of have it on my shelf as like a decorative item because I don't really know how to hook it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's more like a dedicated Pong machine. Really.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask, is the 100 series, because I see 200, 300, and so on, those are, dedicated where they don't have any carts, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, I for whatever reason, feel like I should be an expert on this because the Wikipedia page about the Odyssey series actually references something on my website. I have no idea why.
That's insane.
Because I don't have, other than a couple of photos of Odysseys I've either seen or the one I own, I have no factual information about the Odyssey.
That is funny.
Someone editing Wikipedia decided that my page is a good reference for something involving one of these Odyssey variants.
Nice.
So
these
have to look at the credits to see what they think I'm 18. Okay, hold on.
These variants are the original At Games plugins, aren't they? It's really the equivalent.
Kind of, yeah. So, for whatever reason, my site is referenced for the Magnavox Odyssey 3000, a thing I don't even recall ever seeing in person. And it's some details about what buttons are on the console, which again, I never written about. I have no idea why. I'm guessing I posted a photo of this thing.
It's got to be,
they're using the photo I posted. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert on the Magnavox Odyssey 3000 at all.
Now, how many boomers do you think are listening to this episode and calling it Gen Xers discover thing?
Discover things, yeah. There's some, I'm sure. I mean, I would like the Odyssey would be kind of a fun thing to own and play with. I mean, this would be. I don't know if you would call this like a Gen X or boomer thing because it was released in 1972 and that's not that much older than us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the people getting it probably were, growing up, you always had the people who got the newest things. They had what was the Sony music format that they launched?
Mini disc.
Mini disc, yeah, right. So there's the fact that they had the Laserdisc player and the mini disc player,
mm-hmm.
and later the 3DO, right? Like we all knew one person like that.
Yeah, I was a mini disc guy.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
not Laserdisc though.
Even to audio stuff, right? So maybe I can understand that, but like there was always that, well, the people that always kind of got like the latest gizmo, whether it was it panned out or not, and maybe that was who the Odyssey sold to.
Yeah. I mean, I really can't think of who this is for. I mean, it's kind of for kids, but they could break their parents' TV on accident. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be hard to break your parents' TV, but I guess you could. I guess you could use the wrong kind of tape, like you tape the thing on with duct tape because you're a kid and you're dumb. I guess that would be bad.
But this
or electrical tape, something that really leaves residue forever.
Yeah. But I think really looking into this, it got me most excited about the Odyssey 2. I'd like to play more of those games, but we shall see. Do you have any closing Odyssey thoughts?
No. I mean, again, if I had a lot more space, I would probably have the 3000 hooked up, or I wrote 3000 in the notes. It's a 300. Correct that, even though only you can see it. Yeah, I would definitely like to have a place where I could hook, like, I don't know, I've always liked this idea of having a room that is kind of decorated like a 1970s van. Like the van that has like the carpet and maybe a TV in back,
Yeah.
Like, if I had enough spare rooms, I just saw a news article. This is because I must spend too much time on Zillow. But Google just recommended a news article for me about the largest house in Illinois being up for sale. It's I don't even know what town this is. It's not Chicago for sure. And if I had that house, it has like 19 bedrooms or something. If I had a house like that, then I suppose I could turn one of them into like this 1970s game room, which would look like the back of a van. Specifically a van that had like a painting of like a wizard fighting a dragon on it.
Yeah.
And I would love to have a room like that with like the old school TVs and the old school game systems and an 8-track player. I really would like to have a room like that. I think that would be fun. But until I have the space for that, I don't think I'll be playing too much Odyssey.
Yeah, exactly. And getting it up and running, like it seems like a good idea, and then you start doing it and it just turns into a nightmare. Kind of like owning a real arcade cabinet turns into, usually.
Yeah. This is why I don't own a real arcade cabinet.
But another shout out to Zach again. Thank you for putting a lot of that together for us.
Yes, thank you.
Should we do some game club?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Asteroids, a game I think anyone listening to this podcast would know. It's an Atari game from, when was this released? 79? I saw it I was born in 78, so I saw it way after that. But yeah. A vector graphics game with 5-ish buttons where you start in the middle as a spaceship. You're really just a triangle, and you're shooting asteroids and UFOs that are flying around you. And as you shoot the asteroids, they blow up into smaller asteroids, and eventually they're small enough where you can shoot them and they disappear. It has fantastic Jaws-like music. I played this one on the Mister. I was able to play the original arcade version of it on there, and it played wonderfully. I also played the 2600 port and the 7800 port and the Game Boy port. I grew up with the 2600 port. I still have that cart. It's one of the best ports ever. It really has to be. It does everything flawlessly, moving from vector graphics to raster graphics, and the Atari's I guess specs, I guess you would call it, really lend itself to making these asteroid popcorn type shapes. It just worked out. The 7800 is fine for it. It's really more circular shapes, and in the original game, the asteroids start out moving more vertically up and down, But in the 7800 port, they're moving more sideways, which I thought was kind of a strange thing they did. Speed running in this game is pointless because you could just kind of troll it where you just have one little asteroid flying and you just wait for a UFO to fly by and you kill it, constantly getting up more points. So I guess that wouldn't be speed running. That would be the high point score record.
Yeah, if you go to speedrun.com or whatever it's called, all the world records for asteroids are like first to like getting to 1 million points or something.
Okay. I could see that being a good thing. And it was followed up by Deluxe Asteroid, which I think is a beautiful cabinet. It has a kind of 3D effect with its background. And what else do I have in my notes here? The Game Boy port is pretty much the same as the 7800 port, except you can't turn, as in the turning isn't precise, so it's a little bit more frustrating. It's harder to hit the targets, and there is Blastroids, which until doing this episode, I thought was a clone because Blastroids just sounds like a total ripoff, but it is an Atari game. And it is fantastic. It only came out, to my knowledge, on computers. I actually had this on DOS back in the day, and it is gorgeous. I don't know if they had some crazy algorithm they used to generate the asteroids, or if somehow they used pre-rendered images, but the asteroids and the artwork in this are just fantastic, way ahead of their time. I highly recommend Blastroids. I do know it is in the arcade, and again, I think I just thought it was some weird knockoff back then. And another one I really want to recommend is Super Stardust HD, I think is the full title. It's on PS3 and Vita. There might be a PS4 port now. There's Stardust and Super Stardust, which are just like asteroid clones, but Super Stardust HD has incredible graphics, incredible gameplay. It's like a twin stick shooter at this point, and you're actually traversing around a sphere that asteroids and weird things are coming at you, and you have upgrades and you switch different weapons for different types of things coming at you. I just totally love that game. I spent a lot of time on my Vita with it, but yeah, what's your history with asteroids?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play it a ton in the day because, again, I was like an Intellivision kid.
Mm-hmm.
When I got into 2600, though, I found that I really liked the 2600 port of Asteroids. I like it better than the arcade version.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it doesn't look as good, I guess. It's kind of hard to say. I mean, the original arcade has the graphics are very good in the sense that they don't ever look. What's the way of putting it? Like,
vectors are sharp. Vector graphics are sharp.
Sorry, right. Like the vector graphics games generally still look good years and years later.
Yeah, they age well.
They do. Yeah, the 2600 version I actually think holds up pretty well, and you know, it's not a game trying to fleece you. You know, it's not trying to take all your quarters. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit easier. You know, yep. and that I think that additional or less difficulty makes a big difference.
I read that the 2600 Kart sold 3 million copies. That's pretty big.
That's a lot for the time. It really is. I mean,
yeah.
That's like your entire 2600 install base, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's fine. Anytime I find loose 2600 games somewhere, there's always Asteroids.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always like to look at speedruns for these games. This is a game where speedrun doesn't make sense. And I started looking at the world record history, and that is just horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
The guy who held the record since the 80s died in 1989. He set the record in 1982, I believe they said. Wait, no, I get it wrong here. November 13th, 1982. Played for 60 hours and scored 41,336,440 points. And then died a couple years later trying to get his cat off the ledge of his apartment building.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah. It was
That's
three
nuts.
stories. I think cats can actually survive a 3-story fall, but I understand wanting to get your pet off the ledge, because maybe it wouldn't. And because he wasn't like a celebrity, people didn't really know he died. And at some point, Twin Galaxies wanted to give him like a special award on the re-release of Asteroids, but they didn't know he was dead.
Oh wow!
And eventually, it took Twin Galaxies 4 years to find the story.
Wow,
Again,
that's
before
nuts.
Facebook.
Yeah.
So weird. And then the record was broken in this century. But just reading about it, it's like this is like the kind of thing. It's like a Geneva Convention violation, because you have to stay awake for like multiple days on end, and you have to rack up. This is something like the Qbert World Record gets set. Like, it's a game where you can rack up a lot of extra lives and then maybe like go to the bathroom for 5 minutes. It's just awful though. Like reading about the attempt was not fun.
Have you played any of the clones?
No, I've not played very many clones. I played there's like a Vectrex kind of knockoff, which of course is vector graphics.
If you go on Moby Games and type in Asteroids, there's a clones button, clones and knockoffs, and it is 6 pages long, I think.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised it's that short, really. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of looking through the list of clones. Mindstorm, that's the Vectrex game I'm thinking of. Which is actually that's actually really good too, and it's vector graphics, so it looks good. And a lot of these others I just haven't played. Yeah, I know there was a planned in television game that was really similar, but Mattel kind of got cold feet and canceled it.
No, I don't blame them.
Yeah, but then it turns out, Fighter's History just got released on Nintendo Switch Online.
Okay.
And that was the game that was so similar to Street Fighter 2 that Capcom sued.
Yeah.
And Capcom lost because you can rip off an idea, and I mean, if you're not ripping off the actual characters, you can get away with ripping off an awful lot of a game idea.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you could say platforming was our idea. You can't do that type of game ever again, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, like, okay, you've been to a grocery store, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the grocery store DVD section or DVD bin?
I guess. I don't look through them.
Oh, well, you have to. They're hilarious. But it's all knockoffs of Disney movies, right? It'll be like Lion King, but it'll be like a slightly different name, but otherwise it'll basically be the Lion King. Like, it's all just these like knockoff direct-to-DVD kids movies. They're actually kind of fun to look at. So yeah, you can like really rip off an idea as long as you don't use the same names and setting like exactly.
Well, should we move on to your game?
Yeah, I did Super Mario Kart because it turns 30. And I was going to play it on the NES Classic Mini or whatever it's called, but I instead played it on the Switch, because on the Switch it actually has a mode where all the levels are unlocked, I guess. So I played that one. By default, I didn't play Mario Kart a lot in the day. But when I did play it, I usually played Donkey Kong because it didn't really occur to me that the character choice mattered. I just didn't think like the game was that sophisticated yet. And I never did really well. And this time when I was playing it, I went as Toad and won pretty easily every time. And it occurred to me that Toad, like, the handling is kind of bad. Like, is like turning corners with him, you pretty much always miss a little bit. But he, like his Super Mario 2 rendition, is very fast.
Yeah.
So he became my new go-to character in the game. And you start looking at, like, this is a very, very advanced game for the time, because, like, split screen view is hard to do. Sega Genesis has some hardware features that actually help you do split screen games. I don't know about the Super Nintendo equivalent, but regardless, like, the idea that you're running this, like, very good quality racing game in half the screen, and the other half of the screen like live tracking the progress of each racer is pretty advanced. Like if you think through trying to code it on that hardware, it's a pretty amazing accomplishment. And then like it was sort of interesting to go back and see how many elements from the game were there from day one. Like again, the racers having different abilities, and then the power-ups that you get, and how the power-ups seem to change based on your position in the race. So yeah, did you play Mario Kart?
Yep, I played on the analog system I have, and yeah, for me, I get it. It's fine. The problem is that for me is there isn't a big nostalgia thing there.
Yeah.
I remember it from back in the day, but I thought of it. See, I never really liked non-main Mario games. Like I wasn't big into Dr. Mario and stuff like that. When I saw, Mario Kart, I thought like, oh, this is just some weird knockoff game that's not going to go anywhere. And I think I tried it out and I was like, that was fine. You know what I mean? But I'm moving on. It wasn't until Mario Kart 64 blew me away that I went back and said like, oh, I get it. This game is actually pretty great, but now I have Mario Kart 64, so who cares?
Yeah.
But like you said, how many of the mechanics that they got right the first time around that are still into the game today, you know what I mean, is really impressive. I did want to try and use what is it called? The BSNES HD, is that the name of the emulator that will up-res games like this?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we did that episode, when we kind of looked at that thing, I did that, but that was like 3 years ago now. So I wanted to check that out again, but I didn't get a chance. But yeah, this is a great game, but it's one of those where the second the Nintendo 64 was released, Mario Kart 64 is the first, the furthest back I'll go back with Mario Kart games on my own,
Yeah.
What are you going to play next?
What are you going to play next? Let's start with yours, actually.
Okay. I'm going to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade, or the NES port of the arcade, which I think is like TMNT 2, the arcade.
I believe it's TMNT 2.
Yeah.
Then I will, I'll stick with the theme, I guess, and I will do TMNT Tournament Fighters.
Nice.
Have you played that one?
Yes. I'm excited to play it more.
Played it very, very sparsely.
Mm-hmm. Same, yeah.
So I'll play it at least a little bit and see if it's any good.
Cool. Well, if any of our listeners play Asteroids, Super Mario Kart, really any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, if you have a history with Odyssey or any comments on it, if you plug USB Bluetooth stuff into your retro consoles, what else do we have here? If you play Quake on your Apple Watch, or if you're a millennial discovering stuff, or a Gen Xer discovering stuff.
Yeah. If you're anyone discovering stuff that previous generations knew about.
Yes. Or if you know about or have comments on retro collecting in Australia. For our next episode, please email us at email@retrogameclub.net. That is email@retrogameclub.net. And we have our link tree and all our other social links in our show notes, which is Zach takes care of all of those. And we do have some emails this episode.
Yeah. I mean, I think not surprised to see that we did not get a lot of Odyssey feedback because, I assume most of our listeners are probably about our age, but we did get one, which is good. So emailer Rob, not you, but a different one, mentions getting a Magnavox Odyssey when he was 4 for Christmas 1974. His memory is a bit foggy, but he remembers playing many different Pong-like games and changing the plastic sheets to add color, and that the haunted house one is the one he played the most.
I believe it, yeah.
Yeah. And he sends a picture, which I can vouch for being in the 1970s.
Yes, and I love the blow-up punching Bam Bam doll in the background.
Yeah. I probably had one of those in the 1970s. It's hard to say. I probably didn't because we we didn't move to America till like late in the 70s. So stuff that would have been like, American toys, I didn't really have till the 80s. But I know I've seen that thing, so I must have known a kid who had it. I don't think I ever personally owned it. But those things are darn near indestructible, so they survived well into the 80s, if that photo's from 1974.
Yeah. And
it mentions also having the light gun rifle, too.
Yeah, which, seems pretty cool. And let's see, the Grand Emperor writes in, saying he's catching up on a bunch of episodes and made it up to our one where we talk about why we collect arcade games, and he found himself kind of asking the same thing. And he asks us, with how expensive and crazy the prices are now, would we ever consider getting out of the hobby? And if so, how would you choose what you would sell, and what would you hang on to, and how would you sell them? And I think you've talked about that a bit, so you want to start answering that?
I have occasionally sold a few things off on eBay, just things where it's like, okay, this goes for too much money and I'm never going to play it. Mm-hmm. Just the hassle factor is a little too much for me lately, because like, okay, this is going to make me sound super lazy, but it's actually that I'm super busy in real life. That like, you sell an item on eBay, you usually have to ship it within 24 hours of people paying, right? Mm-hmm. So you try and do an auction where it's like, great, I'm going to have this end on Saturday. If they pay on Saturday or Sunday, then I can go to the post office drop-off box. They have like the machines, Sunday evening, and then I can take everything that I eBayed and set, just go to the machine and send it all off at once, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that part sounds great, but then it doesn't really work that way. And some people maybe pay you on Monday, or send you some weird thing about, oh, I forgot that I was going to be in Mongolia this week, and I'll pay you on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it becomes just a big I know, like, it doesn't sound like a big hassle, but if you're already basically working till like 6 every day, and then you have to get kids around, and you have calls with people in 3 different time zones as part of your job, like finding time to go to the post office is actually kind of a pain.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, how much am I actually making from this? And the math just hasn't really worked out. Now, if I have some stuff, like I had mentioned, I have Windows on floppy disk somewhere here, right? If I knew someone that's like, oh man, I love collecting Microsoft Windows, and the one thing I'm missing is Windows 3.0 on 5 1/4 inch disk, I will just give it to you. Okay?
Yeah.
Like we don't have to get into pricing. Like, if it's something I really don't have any, like, feel strongly about, and there's somebody else who like really, really likes this thing, I will give it to you. I actually, here's the thing, I sold someone a game for a little more than what I paid for it, even though I could have gotten like 10 times that amount. Mm-hmm. So like at a yard sale once, I found a Sonic 2 in cardboard box.
Wow.
Did you know Sonic 2 was ever sold in cardboard boxes?
No.
Right. No, extremely rare. Right?
Yeah.
I think it was sold at KB for like a couple of weeks. And it turns out there are people who, like, a very small community that is like super focused on collecting all Sonic, or not all Sonic games, all cardboard Genesis games, because it's a hard thing to collect. Mm-hmm. And one of those guys reached out to me, asked if I still had the thing, and that he's like super, like, I love collecting cardboard Genesis games. I'm trying to get a complete collection. That's my passion, and my only reason for living is to collect cardboard box Genesis games. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Here, I paid like, I don't know, I think I paid $2 for it, something. I have to go back. It's on my website. And I basically am like, give me a couple bucks more than what I paid for it, plus shipping, and it's yours. Mm-hmm. And if I go on eBay to look for that thing, I guess I could regret selling it for that little, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I was actually literally thinking about it this week, because I have a Space Ace Laserdisc that I got for under $5.
Oh, is that the half off books one?
Yeah, it's half price books.
Yeah.
Space Ace Laserdisc, perfect condition. Like, if someone contacted me, they're like, hey, I'm trying to restore a Space Ace cabinet, and somehow I have everything except the Laserdisc, and you could send me pictures of that, and you weren't like just trying to sell this on eBay, I would give you the Laserdisc. Like,
because you're not going to do anything with it. You just saw it and it was a good price.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm like, oh, cool, Space Ace. That was as far as my thinking went. And now I'm like, well, I don't own a Laserdisc player. I'm not going to own a Laserdisc player, I don't think. Again, unless I buy the largest house in Illinois and make a Laserdisc room.
Yeah.
So, just things like that. That's sort of my philosophy. Like, I don't really feel like cashing out. I mean, if I got, like, lost my job or had massive medical bills, like, my position on selling stuff to cash out would change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, like, right now, if I have something that I don't really care about and you absolutely love collecting that thing, we can make a deal.
I think my arcade cabs would go first. It would be hard to see them go, but it's so much maintenance, you know what I mean? And so much space. And then if I was going to sell other stuff, I think it would be, I think I would part out the expensive stuff. So I have some really rare, PlayStation games and stuff like that. I would probably, anything, that I could get like more than, I don't know, $100 for. I would sell individually, and then I would sell like collections by the system. Like, here's all my TurboGrafx collections. Here's all my NES games, and then sell them that way to kind of make it a little bit easier. But definitely my Saturn would go first because that is by far my least played system. And I think that's all I have on that. Grand Emperor, thank you for that email.
Yeah, I will get the last one here. I think this is for Majors. It is. Talking about hooking up old RF consoles on modern TVs. So he's been buying some late 70s Japanese consoles, and they're all RF only. And the extra hiccup is that in Japan, channel 2-3 is closer to American channel 95-96, if you know how old TVs work. So you have to so if you remember, most CRTVs with tuners on VHF only have 1 through 13, and UHF only gets you to 69. So you have to find cable-ready TVs. You remember back in the day, you could hook up if you didn't need a cable box, like before they were encrypted, you could just connect the cable line to the TV. Did you ever have one of those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so those go up to channel 130. So then you can hook up a Japanese console to that, which is a lot of work. But if you're interested in these old systems, of course. As for the Odyssey, he also, I think he's the same age as us. He never had an Odyssey. The closest thing was seeing Pong at a friend's house. But he does have some Odyssey near clones. The Epic TV block, which is sort of like Atari Video Pinball, and a thing called the TV Invader, which is definitely some, Odyssey knockoff from Japan. Having the one CDI fan you knew growing up. And yeah, he said he had a friend who did have a CDI, like the one friend. And he thinks it's because the father was perhaps suckered into buying the most advanced system from a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens when you buy your video games at Sears, Sears sold the CDI, and they had, this is a different, people nowadays, you don't think of a retail person as that being like a job you want to do for more than a week.
Mm-hmm.
But in the 80s, these were guys who had like a tie and a mortgage,
Oh yeah, this was their career for sure. I mean, we got one of our first computers from Sears,
Yeah, it was a real job. So I can already picture the guy at Sears with the mustache and the suit,
smelling like cigarettes and coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. Pack of cigarettes in the front pocket. I can picture the whole look, man. I got it, man. And then he sent a couple pictures from Long Island Retro, which was last month. It's pictures of, what is this, MSX2 and Super Graphics. And then he wants to clue us into an arcade documentary being made called Arcade Dreams. And that he knows a couple people who are going to be featured in it. I looked, and Trent Reznor is listed as a producer.
Nice. Cool.
So that's a good sign.
I'll check out this preview.
Yeah, I think this was like a Kickstarter, maybe. I think that because they have a supporters page that has like 1 billion names on it. So that would tell me it was at least crowdfunded.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, some of the contributing producers include Trent Reznor and John Carmack. So those are real names.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the email. We have some social about the Ouya.
Yeah. Oh, Doodle World Nate says it's the least used console in his collection, and he was very hesitant to try this hack that we talked about. And then I think it's Twitter Crazy Group Trio. It says you don't actually need to change your DNS setup. You can hack. I'll use the term host file.
Mm-hmm.
People know what that is on the Ouya instead. I was thinking that the DNS hookup seemed kind of extra hacky to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, pretty much you can solve in quotes, a lot of technology problems through host files.
Absolutely. Yeah. Windows and Linux.
Linux, right? This is an Android distribution, so I'm pretty sure. When I read that, I was thinking like, it's got to be a host file hack for this. I don't recommend using host file to solve most problems, but you can get around a lot of annoying things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, our email address again, email@retrogameclub.net. Zach has all our social links and the show notes. And we're playing a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games for the next episode.
Yeah, a lot of TMNT. It's after school in 1991 all over again.
Exactly. Well, I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, so thanks for listening.